Welcome back to another episode of Flutter Original. This time I'm coming back with a little bit different project for Flutter and Dart, and that is ClojureDart. In fact, Clojure has a special place in my heart because I've been Clojure developer for some time, and I I dare to say it's still one of my favorite languages, let's say, because I'm also doing Dart. Two of my favorite languages right now combined into one, which one of the interesting project I found recently, and I was chasing the author of these projects, how they've done that, why they've done that. So two gentlemen are here today with me, and let's welcome them and ask them to introduce themselves. Please, Christopher, maybe we can start with you.
Okay, so I am Christophe Grand. I'm French and I'm a long-time Clojure developer. It has been more than 15 years. And together with Baptiste, we run a small consultancy.
Yes, and I'm the other half of ClojureDart. I'm Baptiste, living in Paris, France. And we started writing this compiler around the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, at first for fun. I just wanted to write my own Lisp at the very beginning, and I thought the Dart language was a good one to target because Clojure is a platform language. It targets JavaScript, Java, the CLR, and now Dart. And at first, it was kind of a crazy idea, but I convinced Christophe to help me with that and to invest time, hence money, in this project. And we spent somewhere around 2 years before shipping it. And now it's open source and people are using it. Companies are starting to adopt it, and we are very happy.
Oh, that's very nice. I know that in Clojure like ecosystem, of course, there are some frameworks or JavaScript frameworks, but you still can write with Clojure, and you can compile it to web and other projects. So you particularly started Dart and Flutter. So was there any reason, like, have you been introduced to Flutter before, or you've done something with that and then you started doing this project? What was the reason behind this project at the end? I know that you mentioned about fun, but apart from fun, probably there was a reason, other reasons, right?
Not really. We're not. We don't really have a strategy. That's maybe why we have a small company, so small company. No. I mean, at first it was really for fun, and we had no experience of Flutter or Dart, but we heard very good things about Dart.
And if you permit, Flutter was a compelling offer for cross-platform development, because then we would be able to ditch the web stack, because the web stack for doing UI is almost backward. It was first a document platform which got redesigned and pivoted in a way to allow to deliver apps. But then you have all that craft to deal with, while Flutter offers a simpler alternative. So that was really the interest in using Flutter rather than going with ClojureScript and, I don't know, React Native, for example.
Interesting. So when you started the project, I mean, after 2 years, I know that the project is also production ready. I've checked that on your repo, and obviously there are some apps written in Clojure apparently. So what are the pain point of writing this compiler for? Like, did you find anything that was very hard to figure out, or was Dart and Flutter generally was pretty straightforward in order to write a compiler on top of that? So how did you find this?
Well, we were learning the language as we were implementing ClojureDart, so that part was not easy because we had no previous Dart experience. Clojure is a dynamic language. Dart was and is not anymore a dynamic language. So we tried to avoid types and type inference at first, but we realized that there were no way around it. We had to support at the compiler level high quality inference, so that Clojure users almost all the time don't have to type anything, and the ClojureDart compiler can infer what object you are typing, and what took time was rewriting. I think 3 or 4 times the design of the compiler. Because as I said, we were learning Dart and learning to write a compiler. So Christophe was also a huge contributor to Clojure core. So I mean, he was one of the best partners to write a Clojure compiler, but still we had some struggle. Maybe I'm forgetting something, Christophe.
Well, so like you said, we had several big steps in the development of the language. First, we've done it very naively with all the variables typed as dynamic. So it serves us for a while, at least as a proof of concept. But then we tend to have code which was slow and had some weird errors. I mean, most of the errors were caught by the Dart compiler or the runtime, and not by the Clojure compiler. So it wasn't a good experience. And then we started to implement types, and then there was the migration to non-nullable types by default, which happened in between, which was also a big step. And but to me, the thing that put Dart apart from, let's say, Java in terms of targets is the lack of reflection, which is in Dart. There's almost no reflective features. There are some things which the Clojure developer takes for granted, which can be compiled in a straightforward manner in Dart, simply because we can't ask the runtime to provide information about the type of an object and the type, the members, and so on. So there are things that we can't rely on, at least not for production build. That's why that was an interesting challenge, but we somehow figured a balance, because it's also a balance between requiring the developer to put types everywhere and the Clojure approach, which is more to put the type later on when you need them just to fix. But when you focus on the design, you don't have to think about the types.
Can I add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
There were also in the challenges, there were also more human reasons, like so implementing a compiler takes time, and for us it was not our job, right? When we first started during the pandemic, we had few clients because of the pandemic, so we had a little bit more times to work on this. But one of the challenge we faced was finding time and energy during 2 years without any revenue on this to just do the project. It's not only about technical; it's also in the head and
Absolutely.
money.
Yeah, I understand. I hope after this show, I mean, we encourage some people who are interested in the topic, they can come to the repo and maybe start contributing to the project. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. So I hope that you can guide people how they can contribute to the project and make it even better. So one question that I have. So being a Clojure developer, I know that it's fairly or strongly functional programming language, right? And it's a different paradigm when you come to Dart because of course, it provides functional programming features, but not as strong as Lisp or Clojure. It's mainly an object-oriented programming, object-oriented language, right? I just wonder, how did you come up with how did you address these conflict? It's not a conflict. I mean, kind of map these paradigms when you write this compiler.
Maybe start, Christophe.
Yeah, okay. The conflict between Clojure and Dart isn't, in my opinion, of a very different nature than the one between Java and Clojure or JavaScript and Clojure. In fact, when you add Flutter to the equation, Flutter using a lot of immutable objects, the widgets, it makes it rather a good fit for Clojure. More than, say, when Clojure was new and people were trying to write some SWT or Swing UI with Clojure. You were forced to deal with the objects and all the mutability. While with Flutter, it's not the case, except if you are, of course, implementing a new render object, for example. But when you deal as a simple user only with widgets, I wouldn't say that there's much of a mismatch between Flutter and between Dart and Clojure. Plus, Clojure has never been super strict about functional purity. The Clojure has always been about managing state, managing changes, and it's more about segregating the computation and the state, but still recognizing there is state, there are some mutations happening somewhere, but let's put them together in one place or in several places so that we can reason about them and all the configuration that can occur of the state, rather than to have mutable states spread all over the place and not being able to reason about your program.
Okay, sounds nice.
If I may, you will see later, Majid, that we also don't develop Flutter applications, for example, like a proper Dart developer would do. We wrote thin layers, thin libraries around Flutter to have a more Clojurist experience. So it's still you will recognize your widgets, your properties, stuff like that, but we are dealing differently with the state, for example. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. I mean, this is also one of the questions that I wanted to ask during the live coding. So, how do you deal with packages and the ecosystem and these kind of things? But maybe this is the time.
Very simply.
Yes. Maybe we should now jump into a code editor, and you just show us how we can start with the ClojureDart project and maybe start building a Flutter application.
Of course. So I have an iOS simulator, my Emacs, but it could be, I love Emacs, but it could be anything, and a terminal.
VS Code with a Canva plugin
Exactly.
is a popular take.
What I propose is to go to ClojureDart.org and do the minimal tutorial, and then we can iterate from there. If you have questions or if you want me to do specifically a thing, it can be fun. Okay. So I go to the repository, ClojureDart.org, and if you go down, you have a very first app. So what it does is it creates a directory and a depth.tdm, which is the Clojure way to declare packages, dependencies. It's like pubspec.yml for Dart. So here, and I have now hello. Oh no, I'm already in the package. If I go to Emacs, I only have depth.tdm. And depth.tdm has only one dependency, which is ClojureDart. ClojureDart is a pure Clojure library. And you can declare two types of projects, either a Flutter one or a Dart one. A Dart one would be for servers, keys, programs like that. And there is the main entry space, namespace, where Flutter is going to find the main function. Okay. So then you need Clojure installed on your machine and Flutter, of course, FlutterDart. Then I initialize the project. I should upgrade Flutter. Okay, if I go back.
You mentioned you should upgrade the Flutter. Does it support like the latest version all the time, or how do you manage upgrading Flutter and Dart projects? Like, for example, we have Dart 3 right now. So are you supporting Dart 3?
Yeah, so we do support Dart 3, sorry. ClojureDart users can also, I think, we implemented it last weekend. They can also emit Dart records.
I see.
But we don't have yet Dart record insurance. I mean, but yes, we do implement Dart 3. It took only something like 4 days. So Dart 3 shipped, I think, last month, something like that. And 4 days later, it was already possible to use Dart 3 and ClojureDart.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we had been busy because there was the ClojureConf, the biggest Clojure conference, and which happened right before the release of Dart 3. And so while Dart 3 support was on our roadmap for a while, we didn't have time to do it. So we had to rush it post-release. But I believe it took 2 or 3 days to get basic support. Like Basis said, records are not totally supported yet, but otherwise it's okay. And we still support Dart 2. So one code base can compile to Dart 2, Dart 3.
Does it need to be specified like in the package setting, or you recognize it?
No, we detect the Dart compiler that you have.
That's very nice.
Okay, so you can see here that a ClojureDart project is just a Dart project, a Flutter project. The only difference is the depth.tdm here and a source folder that I will create in a few seconds. So if we take a look at our pubspec, it's the default one, nothing much, nothing more. If I go back here I'm just creating the source Acme folder and a very simple application. So, and later we will iterate. Okay, here. So if I go back to Emacs, now see there is a source project with an Acme and directory and a main entry point. So remember in that.ilian, we had this acme.main. It's this namespace, and the ClojureDart compiler is going to look for this namespace and run the main function. Now,
Can you increase, that is, may you increase the font size in the buffer?
Of course.
Thank you.
Now, lastly, I run the ClojureDart compiler. So it's compiling ClojureDart. Yeah, it has compiled the main, and now it's just launching Flutter like a normal Flutter project. You can pass any parameters, options you want. For example, -d, your device ID.
It's
kind of
whatever comes
after command, right? You kind of plug it to your command line.
Yeah. See example here.
I see. Okay.
It's like Flutter run.
So it's a pass-through to Flutter run.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything after Flutter goes after Flutter run.
So just to show you, if we take a look at the usual lib directory that user where that user rock, here we just have an export, and the CLG day out is where the ClojureDart compiler dump the files. But you can have a mixed project. Everything that is under lib can be used by ClojureDart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get coding. And
well, that's very nice. That means you can use then literally everything from Flutter ecosystem.
exactly.
Oh, that's nice.
Let's change.
And one important thing about the support of local Dart file was about supporting files which are generated.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have many packages, including some of the Flutter Firebase ones, where they dump files under the lib directory.
Yeah.
And it was a must-have for us to be able to have a mixed project.
I see.
Like that.
So, but then a quick question. So then in the Clojure part right now.
Yeah.
So maybe some people have this question as well. Like you have now material app, which is
right.
or a scaffold, which is a widget, right? Do you kind of infer that from the material.dart, or you kind of have a one-to-one map? Like, for example, if now tomorrow we have material 2 app, let's say, whatever, do you support it like quickly, like on the fly, or you need to support it in the compiler?
So we ship our own analyzer with ClojureDart. So it means that it analyzes whatever the Dart code you have. So basically, we treat material as any other Dart libraries. So if it is required in your project, we understand it. Okay. I don't know if that was your question.
Yeah. Another way of putting this is that the 3 days which we took to support Dart 3 were strictly spent on changes to the Dart language.
Yeah.
We didn't spend any time supporting Flutter 3.10.
Yeah.
It's just a library. Here, the m/material app just means the material app class of the material library. We don't have wrappers.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We directly deal with the...
Oh, that's very nice. So it
class.
means that, like, for example, right now, if Flutter team is depreciating something, or in the next release they remove, we don't you don't need to update anything. You actually quickly analyze it and you figure it out and
Exactly.
tell, okay,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
So see,
Well,
this require
you-
is
if
the way.
they deprecate widget, we'll have some stuff to rewrite. But outside of some very, very core classes, we are not dependent on that. And it means that you can go to pepdev and pick any package that you wish and play with it in ClojureDart.
I
Yeah.
see. That's very nice.
Yeah, I was saying that this reprise is the Clojure way to import libraries. And when it's a string, it means it's a pure Dart library. And if it's not a string, if it's a symbol like this, it means that it's a pure Clojure library. Okay, so I can import, if we were adding a pubspec package here, we could retry it and the ClojureDart compiler would understand it.
I see.
So this is our very thin wrapper around Flutter. And I'm saying that it's a thin wrapper because basically, like Christophe said a few seconds ago, it only deals with stateless sustainable widgets. It's just it just has 3 F1 and F widget to let you create widget easily in the Clojure way. Yeah, that's around it. That's about it.
Basically,
Maybe we should do that right now. Maybe we should just now create a widget, like, and just instead of, let's say, I don't know, let's create a widget that just wraps text widget instead, for example. Just see how we can actually customize.
Okay, so here we have F1, which is a wrapper, one of the 2 functions I talked about earlier, F1 F widget, and they do exactly the same thing. F1 is only used in the main function, and basically with F1 and F widget we have options. So for example, if you are a Clojurist, you often have an application state, which is an item with let's say ID 1.
So an item is kind of a mutable box. You put something in the item which is immutable, like the map here, because in Clojure maps are, and all collections are immutable. And so you put something immutable in the atom, and then you change the whole value when you update the atom.
I see.
Yeah, and let's say I have a text button, and a text button requires the unpressed and a child. Okay. Let's have back our simulator. So I'm using text button, which has an unpressed, which is a simple function, and a child here. Okay. And when the user presses the text button, we are going to swap the app state, and we are going to update in ID with the function inc. What it does basically, it takes this and it say go to this key and apply this function.
I see.
So every time I click, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc.
I see.
And now I just want to wrap this text widget and use the watch option, which is going to take the app state, and I'm just going to, so this is Clojure destructuring here.
Yep.
I'm just going to listen for changes only in the ID.
Maybe, Majid, could you rename ID to something else?
Yeah.
Counter. Given
Printer.
how you use it.
Printer. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's fantastic.
Okay. So what we did here, we have our friend function. friend. I'm going to talk about this name parameter and the way we destructure widgets. Basically, we just added a callback, an upstate callback, right? That when pressed, apply this function to this counter. And this watch, what it does is it asks the widget underneath to rebuild only if counter changes. Okay? And because, so let's say now that we have 100 of files, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Counter. I'm not going to create 100 of files, but let's just say we have many files. What I could do here in upstate, at the very beginning of my main application, I could use the bind option, which binds to a key, anything, any value, and I would bind the upstate. And in my file that is not in here, where I don't have access to upstate, I can simply get the state, this key, and now this is bind to state, right?
So basically, the bind and get are just a closer way to use the inherited mechanism of Flutter.
But then at this point, maybe a question now for those who have not done any Clojure, just Dart.
Yeah.
So does this code right now that you've written in Clojure, so these are very, very specific to Clojure, to be honest. I remember very well when I was coding in Clojure. Do you now actually compile this to Dart somehow, like maybe creating some kind of class with some kind of getter setter or stream or stuff like that? Or how do you translate this to a Flutter application or Dart code?
Okay. So do you want us to show you the generated code, or do you want
That would be nice if we look at the generated code.
Yeah. So let's put the generated code.
And by the way, the hot reload is also fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this was one of the killer feature of Flutter for sure. I mean, you definitely keep it right on the spot.
So generated code here. The main function here. So this friend translates to run app.
Yeah.
Because we are using specific options from the CLJD Flutter, we are creating classes.
Yeah.
That are stateless or stateful, depending on what you're writing.
Yeah.
So, for example, this thing here. No, is it main refile for a
It must be even. It includes the binder. So
let me check. Yeah, right. This is the one, and this is this class up until here is this one. We're using, so for example, state is a Clojure keyword, and
but it's also a const.
It's also a const, yeah. We infer const, And for example, we are using inherited elements to bind values from the Flutter API.
Yeah.
And what else? Yeah, inherited and inherited bindings. And this is how we compile. Yeah, basically, it's pretty much normal Flutter. But let's say you are very, you really want to dump Dart that could be used in pure Dart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to remove this. You can write the code that you would write in pure Dart. If I do that,
You forgot the watch.
yeah, no, I've
Okay.
not. If I do that, so counter. And we go back to the generated file. Now it's much smaller, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly the code almost exactly the code you would write. We just extract this in a class, and you see no overhead. The overhead you see. I might have forgot something.
Well, the overhead comes from everything that we didn't write. For example, if you were writing a counter application, you would create a new instance of a stateful widget, which we obviously don't do. And so the compiler creates the instance for us, and so on.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah, so one thing about what we call in Clojure threading macro, if you look here, on one part we have a name parameter. We use dot in ClojureDart, but then it goes outside the parentheses with home and body.
I see.
Okay. So you can do that, which would be normal. Perfect. So see, this compiler is the same. So this is normal ClojureDart, but because you are in the F1 and FWidget macro, you can also. So the problem we try to solve is we noticed that in Flutter and in Dart in general, you tend to have a cascade of widgets, right? And so we decided to, with the F1 FWidget macro, that you could extract either every child property or every last property. So this is material app. Home is the last property. So I can extract it outside of the parentheses. And here I can do the same with body. And I can do the same with children, but because child is so common, you don't even need to write it.
I see.
And
that's a very nice. You said very common. Let me tell you something interesting. There's actually some discussion from like community on GitHub or somewhere. So some people also say like, okay, maybe we should avoid child, so because as you said, it's very common. There are some opinion like that. I mean, in the community, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay,
for me, having child is more of like because this is probably the way that we are very used to it in Flutter. We like to see child and do this kind of stuff. But this is very nice because that looks more of Clojure, compared to what it's like in Dart. So I like that. So one more question. maybe quickly, if you can just show us, for example, if I just now download a package to this, someone wants to try just a simple package. Let's go for package info plus.
Okay.
Very simple one.
What simple package do we have?
Package, well, you can go for device info plus, for example.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I have not heard info plus. Okay.
Yeah, so whatever.
No, this one.
This one. So, okay. So I close the ClojureDart compiler. I install the package. Normal Flutter install. I rerun the compiler and I try to see, so I can still keep the imports, and I try to see an example. So is it compiled? It's compiling.
We can add the import while we are waiting.
So here.
So in Clojure, unlike in Dart, the default is to always provide an alias for the library.
Yeah. This is the way we have an alias. So how this package works, I've used it but a long time ago.
You just need to instantiate a class, which is device info plugin, and then you get all the data. As line, there you go, that's it.
So I just need to instantiate, this.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have what does this function?
So generally, so that doesn't matter. So you get the device info, and you just call like device info dot Linux info or whatever info. You need to detect if it's a target platform, like for example, if it's web or iOS.
Okay, so in the init, so I call this, and then let's do it here. Def device info. That's yes, Christophe.
No, okay, keep going now.
Okay, so
you sure it's managed?
No, I'm not sure, but I have to check the how is the class called? Device info plugin. Device info plugin class, and it has so it has no so it's a global basically.
Yeah.
But I don't get why they use it in the init, but anyway. And then I have to call this, or iOS info maybe.
Yep, iOS info. Yes, okay. Because you're on iOS right now.
Okay, perfect. So what I will do here, I will still call watch. And is it the property? Yeah, it's the property. Okay. And info, and this returns this, and let's use this. I can even disregard model, no, let's not, and I will display it okay, then here.
But it's a feature, so it may be null.
All right, you're right. Default. Okay. And here I want, let's say, a column with children and divides info. And it does not compile because what? What? Oh, it's a constructor. Okay. And model I found. Do we have any other interesting informations?
But that's nice. So, quick question here.
Yeah.
If you look at this, this is very nice. What I notice is that right now, when you're writing, you get also kind of like IntelliSense in your Emacs.
Yeah.
So is this something that you provided? There's any setup for Emacs that someone needs to do, or any tips?
Yes, but it's a little bit hacky right now. We are in the process of upgrading the tools everyone is using, but it takes time and it's not there yet. But yes, you can ask me on the ClojureDart Slack channel if you want the proper configuration.
That's very nice. So another question is, well, in Clojure, I remember REPL was a big thing, at least for Clojure developers. Does it support it for ClojureDart, or do you have any plan to support it, or how's the status of that?
Yeah, so the REPL is not there yet. We plan to support it. We had a working proof of concept, but at some point we decided to really focus on, last year, to really focus on having a production-ready ClojureDart and an awesome developer experience before shipping a REPL, because there is auto reload and you can write big applications with that frustration with auto reload. So right now there is no REPL. It will come probably in the next year or so.
Very nice. Maybe we should wrap it up. I just want to ask you two more questions. One is, if you want to give any tips, tricks, or anything that you think those who want to start with ClojureDart right now, they need to keep in mind.
Very simple. I would advise anyone who wants to try ClojureDart to go to the repository, authenticating/ClojureDart, and you will find this sample directory here. And it has many examples, and we add more of them every week. Some examples with pure packages, how to fetch data, how to use forms. I mean, we have many examples, and every week we try to add more. Also, don't hesitate to use Slack. I think we have the link here in the repository.
Yeah.
Here, click here, and we check it every day. We answer every day to all the questions. I think we are very nice. And
there's a cheat sheet too, which is useful, but maybe it's a bit.
There is a cheat sheet. So
it's a bit biased towards people who already know Clojure, and because in our mind, the ClojureDart was a way to Clojure people to reach to Flutter. And to our surprise, we see people coming from Dart and knowing no Clojure, willing to try ClojureDart. And so that's true that we don't have much documentation for people who are new to Clojure, because we didn't expect people to attract people from Dart. But we are going to try to write more documentation geared to the people new to Clojure.
If I can just show one more thing.
Absolutely.
Very quickly. You can also destructure pure object properties. Things like that. So if you have big object,
the as the if because of the nil or if model, you can test if model, it will work.
exactly.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it was a state stuff, and the watch here consumes streams, value listenable, all basically everything that can change in Flutter.
So during this session, we used watch twice. Once on an atom, which is a Clojure stuff, and the other time with a feature. So when we use it with a feature, it spells us to use a feature builder.
Yeah.
And with an atom, it spared us from writing our own stateful widget. So yeah, we have some kind of abstraction which allow to just go by and write Flutter application without using stream builder, Flutter builder, whatever builder, or even stateful widgets.
But that's
we
very
didn't
nice.
demo it, but we also have options to automatically manage and acquire and release resources such as controllers and so on, and which automatically generates the right code to cycle them at the right time of the widget or element lifecycle.
But that's very cool. Thank you very much. I mean, both of you. This is again, it was a very interesting and also like one of the very cool features that I've seen in Dart community and of course Clojure community. I hope for Clojure developers. I guess right now you already talked about the repository. I will put all the links wherever I publish this video or all the audio, so people can click and go ahead and test it out. Maybe, especially if you are a Clojure developer and you want to develop Flutter and you don't want to write anything except Clojure, that's where you are right now. So thank you very much for both of you to come to this show and explain what is this project, how we can work with it, and hopefully in the future we see more of these new features coming to ClojureDart, supporting maybe REPL and more developer tooling, maybe other editors as well supporting. So these are cool. Thank you very much. And I encourage everyone, go ahead and check it out, the Slack and as well as the repository, and consider sponsoring these gentlemen for this project. That will help them to and encourage them to continue on this project. Both of you, last word. If you have anything to say, please do right now.
Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about the Dart community that I did not know about. It's really thriving, and yeah, I'm thankful to have discovered Dart 4 years ago, and yeah, it was a bet. I did not know nothing about it, but yeah, it's truly awesome. So thank you. If you're watching.
And thank you to you, Majid, for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Majid. Yeah.
Thank you for joining, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know at least in the comment below what you think about this. And if you want to contact or connect to these gentlemen, I will put their Twitter as well as their Slack on the comments below. So have fun wherever you are.